Try not to fake anything, just be yourself.
Yeah.
There's no fake content coming out. Your first 6 months is where you sink or swim, and that's what I did. The first 6 months, eat, sleep, repeat numbers. Once you've got a healthy funnel of leads and clients sitting, you don't need to do another.
What's up, aspiring CMOs? I'm going to talk to Steven from White Press. He's going to share with us his journey to dominated industry. I'm pretty sure you guys gonna find this episode fun. If you're thinking about pivoting your career and you want to get started in digital marketing, this episode is for you because his background is super interesting. He started in the F&B business, brick and mortar businesses, and now he is part of White Press, one of the biggest link building companies. What are we talking about?
So if I was a new sales manager coming into White Press or any other organization, and my end goal, yearly target I need to hit is 1 million USD.
A little bit of background, I'm currently at SEO Estonia. It was my first time in Tallinn. Now I got the chance to actually talk to him. One thing about Steven that really stands out to me is that he's super outgoing, super kind, and he has a lot of things to share. So let's go. I know that you have a lot of success, and as you said, you've been running restaurants, and you also know a lot about wine at this point.
Correct.
And what made you pivot to a digital company?
To be perfectly honest, I'm still trying to figure out the exact reason. Jokes apart, so my missus is Polish. So we moved to Poland, 10 years ago. And because I don't speak the language, it in a way was a blessing in disguise. So it gave me the opportunity to pivot into different industries where I couldn't have imagined doing that being back in the UK, because you got bills to pay. And because of the increased competition in the UK, if you want to pivot into a newer industry, you kind of start at the bottom and then work your way up. And I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm 48. So it's not that, oh, fuck, I'm 22. Fine, I'll do this today and I'll do something else tomorrow. Anyway, long story short, 2.5 years ago, I was busy selling wines for quite a big distributor in Poland, actually. And my boss, Tom, who's the head of international growth at White Press, he met me at one of these language exchange meetings, which is basically a piss up, really. And he explained what they do. He said, come and have a chat. It took me 6 months, 4 meetings to try and understand what the hell is SEO, what are backlinks, what do you mean by do follow, no follow. And I'll be honest, I gave myself no longer than 3 months to survive in the industry, because it was just, I wasn't feeling it. But as things go, exactly what I said, it was a blessing in disguise. And here I am 2.5 years later, sitting here in Estonia, having this lovely chat with you, making friends of some of the best SEO and business experts, Matt Singers, Julian Goldie, Charles Flood, James Dooley, Carl Hudson, and I can proudly call them friends. Simple reason what that happened is, which I apply and I recommend to anyone, try not to fake anything, just be yourself.
Yeah.
And that's so important, where people see that, there's no fake content coming out. And I've literally, for me, in my head, I'm still, in a lot of ways, running restaurants, because any business you do, apart from the deliverables and the systems, it's people buy from people. We're all emotional animals. So my sales philosophy is quite simple. Be likable first, sell second. And that's how you generate that interest in you, no matter how competitive an industry or a sector is. And link building, is just increasingly competitive. So many link building agencies out there. How do you stand out? Is by adding that differential, but knowing what your superpower is as well. Hope I've answered it in a... Yeah.
So one highlight here, guys, is that Steven was able to grow so fast because he had the mindset to grow from going from one industry to another, and your mindset of systems. And what I'm taking away from it is like almost all businesses are like restaurants. Somebody comes in, somebody wants something, and you need to deliver it. And either it's going to be a steak or it's going to be links, but there's a deliverable. So, and I like when you said that there is no fake content as long as you just be yourself, right? Like these interviews too, like I am just running around with my tripod and phone, but it gives me an opportunity to talk to you more, because otherwise we would just, say hi for 5-10 minutes per event and
get another gin
and
then that's it.
And then black out. That's me.
After 3 drinks.
So Again, so one of the my question is that you mentioned systems and processes. How did you apply from restaurant industry to link building industry?
Yeah, yeah. I get this question asked a lot. What were these transferable approaches? I obviously had to create some new things, knowing the industry. So it was a fine balance and a combination of a lot of testing, a lot of market feedback, client feedback. And I remember this. This was week one in Ypress. I'd just done 67 cold calls in week one, and we having this every Tuesday management meeting. And I remember saying this to Tom. I said, Tom, give me 3 months. You'll either have a lot of revenue or you have a lot of feedback. Because either way, those two are incredibly important. Because if the feedback comes back and says, mate, there's just absolutely no hope doing stuff in the UK and US market, fuck it, we shelve the idea, we move on to another market. Or if there are things where we could develop, come up with a USP, address the pain points, but all of that only happens if you're actively talking to a lot of human beings, but being very real about it. You know, I am 100% into technology, automation, and all of that, but I think Mads says the same things. There's no one and nothing on the planet which could replace a good heart to heart conversation, you know. And yes, there are lots of statistics out there. I did an email outreach campaign and my closure rate or response rate was 11%, 14%, 17%. Great to look at on a slide. But my next question is, brilliant, they responded. But how many of them were actually spending with you is where the real numbers are. Because a first reply could be, yeah, sounds interesting, mate. Let's do a discovery call. What happened then? Yeah. And that's what I've done. What I've done is I've shortened the process of what we do as a business uh, because it's not rocket science. So a lot of people make that mistake, and a lot of companies do that, that when they grow, they get so fixated with SOPs and processes that the process becomes the end goal, not actually the revenue making. And a lot of people get lost in it. And every time we go into strategy meetings, and you know, we're quite a big, large organization, over 200 people, I always question it. Said, fantastic, we're going to do all of that, but what's the end goal here? Because if it's going to take me longer to enter data in the system, rather than me jumping on the call or my sales team jumping on the call to get that 5 extra calls locked in, so that there are 2 conversions out of that, which might lead to an extra 100K a month, I'd rather do that. What Matt said in his presentations today, the first book, which he loves, is something about breaking rules or how to break rules. And I'm sorry, my boss knows about this. I challenge anything and everything which does not convert quickly. So what I did really was to summarize the answer a little bit more. I took the after sales aspect of restaurants, which is a big lacking factor in the world of SEO, because once the sale is closed, people don't tend to really give a fuck sometimes. You know, the account managers are there, but there's not much happening in my book. So I took certain SOPs or points. For example, in restaurants, we got what we call as a cycle of service, and there are timelines against it. For example, if a client comes into a restaurant, the first approach has to be within 30 seconds. Similarly, I applied that when a client responds, we've got to answer back within the hour, because time is key here. You know, there's so much competition out there. So I married a lot of skills which are easily transferable but also scalable within the world of link building, but also closely knitted into the business model of WordPress, pivot, and then create a short enough structure which gives instant results. But all of that happened really a lot of calling, going to a lot of conferences, and you know the value of networking. You know, someone said once, your network equals your net worth. I believe that.
Thank you. I think it was a very long answer, but I think it gives a lot of insight to a lot of people who are maybe trying to get into marketing or trying to get into a new job and like trying to achieve something. And maybe I want to highlight like you are very confident. So like to gain confidence, you need experience. I think there was a quote saying like, there's no such thing as imposter syndrome. There's only inexperience. So what I see is like you have a lot of experience, and that gives you the confidence to like immediately jump in and basically make the amount of sales you have made. Like this is crazy. Yeah, White Press super lucky. Yeah. So My question is, when you get into a new team, a new company, how fast do you fire people?
Very good question. Again, it depends. What's the KPI? What's the end goal? So my ops team, for example, it's a very process-driven task to be done, which requires dealing with a lot of technology, which we've embedded into our WordPress structures. But sales, the first thing I say in an interview is, guys, your first 6 months is where you sink or swim, and that's what I did. The first 6 months, eat, sleep, repeat numbers. Once you've got a healthy funnel of leads and clients sitting, you don't need to do another sales call, a cold call for the next year, because referrals would drive that. I have not done a single sales cold email or a cold sales call in the last 6 months, because my network now is driving that growth. And this is true. We've got HubSpot as our CRM tool in there. There's not a single cold call I've actually done, because I've built that trust within the industry by delivering certain key results to all our clients. And then if you don't ask, you don't get. I go and ask. Listen, SEO community, it's a small one. If another agency owner is looking to do link building, please think about me, and we can talk about our campaigns further on in a more structured, cost-effective manner. And that's what drives the growth.
Hi, if you listen to this far, thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on either Apple Podcast, Spotify, or my YouTube channel. If you have any feedback for the show, please let me know on the Aspiring CMO Podcast social media pages on Facebook and Instagram, or send me an email on my website. Now let's get back to the episode.
That's awesome. So remember, the first 6 months is when you swim or sink.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think even for my team, I give it even shorter time. Like I usually vet them in the first 2 months. So after month 2, if they're still like sinking, then it's over. Like, this is not a good job for you. You should move on. But yeah, I feel like many entrepreneurs, many new business owners, they are very hesitant to let go of people, because like they feel like they're owing something to someone, or like it's just an inconvenient thing to do. But it's just losing so much money, right?
Yeah. Another thing Matt was talking about is, of course, you need to have those periodical one-to-ones, the job chats. So I've got inbuilt in the system where every month we have a performance review. Of course, we've got the standard 3-month probation period. But my expectations within my sales team, and I'm going to strictly talk about sales here, is month 1 is all about training. Month 2 is when you start contacting clients. And by month 3, I set a bare minimum target, because with that effort, if you've really been at it from month 2, you should have 3 to 4 closed deals equaling 10 grand a month. MRR, and then have enough warm leads for me to do justice to the salary this salesperson would be taken home for the next year. So once I see that factual data is when I move on. And that's another thing I want to question here is, people spend a lot of time creating data sheets. A lot of that is smokes. It's clouding the reality. If you dig deeper, that's where you actually get to the bottom of any problems you got within the agency, or things which you see people are just being sometimes lazy. So put all that's why I give 6 months rather than 3 months.
All right, so break it down to me. As someone, you were a restaurant manager, now you are a senior sales manager. What are the top 5 skills? The top 5 skills that somebody needs to nail down in order to get to your success?
First things first, be likable. You need to have a sense of humor. You need to be less salesy when you're going to conferences and all. Just have fun. Trust factor is so important. Fun will get you to places and have possible leads open up. But then having that ability to pivot very quickly into a business mindset, and then still delivering equal value when you're talking, but manage expectations. A lot of people spend a lot of time chasing leads which won't deliver anything to them. So it needs to be a very clear mindset. What's the product? What probing questions I need to ask, which should then give me an idea how much time I should be spending per lead in order to hit my targets. Because if people lose sight of the end goal as an individual KPI, so if I was a new sales manager coming into WordPress or any other organization, and my end goal, yearly target I need to hit is 1 million USD. You go back into data and you study, okay, what's the average order value or campaign value WordPress gets? Okay, what's the market reality? What do my competitors do? Figure out a strategy and keep testing. Now, people talk a lot about testing systems, but no one really talks about testing your sales strategy. How do you test that? Is by talking to people. So you'll be surprised to know that in the last 6 to 8 months, I've built 27 mini sales approaches from cradle to grave when we're talking to a client. And those triggers are based on how the client responded, what kind of words they were using to the same questions we asked to every client, what was even the body language. Because body language, as you know, people give away a lot of signals. And me, from the world of restaurants, we've been trained at a very young age. Okay, that client is about to complain. This is what we should be doing. So being a step ahead, being proactive.
To summarize then, be likable, know your numbers, and be proactive.
Keep pivoting, keep testing, and just be yourself. But be yourself in a way that you go to a lot of conferences and you see people have spent silly money having the booth there. But if you're not going out, making that connection, because the river of leads, so to speak, is just flowing. What people are, the human beings are there, and a lot of people kind of sit behind that booth as well. So put yourself out there. You need to take risks. A lot of people say, "Oh, we don't enjoy. No one likes getting a cold call or a cold email." Well, I know that no matter you're sitting in Japan, Afghanistan, or the US or the UK, no one enjoys that. Yet, these things work if you are on the ball and you're following the trends and you're still consuming enough quality data. Now, there's one thing I picked up, and I've just put it in our testing stage. I saw a really famous email conversion template, and there were probably 6 slides there. The one which interested me was, it said that the title of the email said, "Struggling with Bitcoin value estimation? Question mark. Please read the full email." It was in the title of the email. Now that generates interest. Actually, the person saying it, you know what? Let me just read it. Otherwise, 9 out of 10 times, if that person would have left it halfway, it would have probably been binned. So sales managers need to do that. Also build their own brand. You know it, brand visibility is so important.
I guess like my question though, like when you build a brand, a personal brand, and you are associated with a certain role, how is it hard to like get out of it? So let's say like you are a sales manager, senior sales manager now, you start your personal brand, and one day you are not a sales manager anymore. How would that affect your personal brand?
Have I actually thought about this? Yes. What's the clear answer to that? Well, it depends when you pivoting into or transitioning into a new job. But if I had to stay within the SEO industry, it doesn't matter where I end up, whether I do my own business or end up working for someone else, my personal brand would still be there, because currently people see me the way they see me. So it's Steven first and then white press follows, which obviously goes hand in hand, because the reason I do that is I want to increase my network, gain a bit of knowledge as well, but also to tie back into my KPIs and my targets, which I need to achieve. So if you're not actually transitioning into a completely new industry, then you're safe. But if you're transitioning into a new industry, I'm sure you could still take certain similar factors and apply them towards building a secondary brand. So if I from SEO tomorrow had to go back into selling wines again, I'm pretty sure I can leverage all of that online visibility I've got and apply certain factors which would be very visible and applicable and drive trust when it comes to the wine world. So for me, good experience or bad experiences in life, especially the bad experiences, are so important. People get too depressed and emotional about it, but that's the real learning, because you're not going to make the same mistake. Now, I'm sure you know about this. The first 5 years of my career in restaurants, I worked with Gordon Ramsay, and one thing he always said, Steve, make 500 new mistakes, I've got no problems, but never repeat a mistake, because then you're not learning. Keep making mistakes, because if you make mistakes, that means you're actually trying. But if they're all new mistakes, that means your learning curve is going through the roof, and then in a very short span of time, you would be able to juggle a lot of balls and be perfect at it. And that's what I do. I wear lots of hats. I've got my own things to do when it comes to my own personal targets. I've got a large team to manage, but then there also comes the brand management side of White Press, especially within the English markets. I obviously now have started my own podcast as well, relationship management, whether it's Mads, you, Julian, Charles, James, and all of that. It is a fulfilling job. It is a stressful job, but only if you've got the appetite for it. And you should be ready to put yourself out there, get out of your comfort zone, take those risks. yet have a balanced mind and approach in order to make those strategic moves in order to get something. Now, one piece of feedback I always get that, Steve, how the fuck do you negotiate all these things where people think it's a favor, but it's not really a favor? And I'm not saying I'm being cheeky about it or there's a hidden agenda, but sometimes you should be asking a question to people when they actually haven't even thought about it, because then it translates into their mindset as an opportunity. And if I'm the one providing that opportunity, they'll be very happy to be flexible and be obliged in order to return the favor. So just help each other.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of things to unpack, and I really appreciate. I'm like, oh, come on, the man worked with Gordon Ramsay himself. But I'm not surprised that you're no longer in restaurant industry. That's funny. But I like that. Like when you said like if you just make mistakes, but different type of mistakes, people grow. Because in this industry, people are so techy and nerdy. So even the one single mistake can tick them off, right? Like this is an industry thing. This is SEO thing. People are techy, people are nerdy. They don't want to make mistakes. But in reality, to get to a success level, to get somewhere forward, upward, then it's needed to make mistakes.
I think it's a bit of a myth. Yes, SEO, to be honest, for me, the restaurant industry is one of the most unforgiving industries. So one of the chains, Gauchos, which is all about Argentinian steaks, really, really premium brand, we did a market analysis. If one negative feedback or a complaint on a client's table equates to how much revenue loss. So we figured out that in the UK, everyone dines out 2 to 3 times a week. You multiply that with the average spend per person, which was anything between 90 to 100 pounds. And on average, if you've had a bad experience in a restaurant or even SEO deliverables, you tend to speak to 10 different people. So you multiply, you do the maths, and you figure out how much revenue loss would one bad experience or negative experience would equate to as annual revenue loss. And that's when you start kind of reverse engineering as to, right, what processes I built in, which is called crisis management. So people would always be unhappy. I run into lots of angry clients we've got, but how do you manage, how do you still come out? Because someone being angry, they are giving you an opportunity to turn it around and then kind of like a wow guest experience. And that's again one thing I've applied from restaurants to here. For us, an angry client was like, you know what, that's my opportunity. I'm going to turn it around in such a way that they'll walk away and they said, you know, these guys are so professional. People come back complaining all the time, which is links not being indexed, or the content quality wasn't up to the mark, or the editor did multiple changes. Average account or sales manager would just pass the buck and give it to say, this is how it is, these are rules are. Or you take ownership of that, you go and do your negotiations, what you need to do with the website owner, do whatever deals you need to do with that person in order to then come back and deliver, which was a messed up situation, but you come and over deliver. So basically what I'm trying to say is mistakes would always happen no matter which sector you're in. Is how you deal with it is the important bit, how you phrase it. And there's one knowledge nugget if I could give out. We obviously get lots of campaigns, multiple links to be built, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or in a 6-month period. Sometimes I'm delivering campaigns and I know that 14% of the links I need to deliver will never, ever, ever be linked to the client's website. I never break that news. I break that news right at the end when I've already built 86% of the links which were supposed to be built. And then when I go into that client call, I talk so much about the positives that the 14% gets a bit diluted. Yet at the same time, I'm also providing actionable alternatives with a bit of a mentality of, oh, I'm still saving you cost. And there has to be some sort of monetary reimbursement which needs to happen, because end of the day, they place that trust into you, whether it's, 5 free links, whether it's a 5% discount on the existing invoice or the next one. So it's how you handle adversity is what makes you stand out, and that's what people remember, which is clear communication, then managing expectations right from the beginning, but try always to over deliver, and that way the client would always remember you, because a lot of people know that the industry we're all at the mercy of Google. Things will go wrong. So if any SEO is guaranteeing results, run a mile, because that's not going to happen. So if you've laid the foundations in a very clear manner, yet given the trust that if at all things go wrong, there are systems in place in order to still deliver results in an alternate manner. If not, we're not going to sit here and take a penny off you, because it's not about the hard work, it's the results we need to deliver. So if you've managed those expectations right from the beginning, I don't see any problems where you still make mistakes. Obviously, there's a limit to what you can do when things can go wrong, yet keep that faith and trust within your client.
Thank you. I hope everybody learned a lot from this answer, because I think you're teaching more than just sales here. You're teaching more like clear communication, managing expectations. And I think you have done so well for the client, external communication, and probably internal communication too, because your team is able to deliver, and team is able to deliver if, there is like a good communication in place. Yeah. So one final word for this podcast, and my question is always the same. So if you were to go back in time, what advice would you give for your younger self?
Probably be a bit more attentive at school. And be less now. There are plenty of pieces of advice I can give to my younger self, but if there was really one, I joked about it, but that's one regret I've had, which probably drives the passion and the fire I've got to try and overachieve things. Is a lot of people don't know that I used to be a semi-professional cricketer and a footballer back in the UK, but because of my South Asian background, education always had to take priority, and that's something I still feel that I did not push enough in order to make that happen, because the talent was there. I still, where I live now in Poland, believe it or not, we play cricket leagues there. So what I'm hinting at is, if you truly believe in something, no matter the age, the environment, the opportunities, go for it. It's going to be a lonely place at times, but you should be doing it. And I think that's what I would say if I had to go back in time. Listen, mate, drop everything, get out of school, uni, whatever, just go and take it right till the end and see what comes out. Rather than 50 years later, in your deathbed, you're thinking, you know what, fuck, I probably should have done that. So I'm not complaining. I'm still very happy with what I'm doing, but I think that's one thing where I had a God-given talent and I probably never used it.
That was so insightful, man. Okay, now I think everybody's crying, so thank you. But thank you so much for joining this podcast episode, and all the great advice for aspiring CMOs to become better marketing leaders and to make sales, to make that happen, to make things happen. So thank you.
Cheers, Annie. Thank you guys. Bye.